G'day everybody, Duckville here bringing you game number 2 between coLNaniwa and GamaniaSen. Gamania, I actually have any idea how to pronounce that, whatever. We're going to have game 2 here on Shakura's Plateau. In game number 1 we obviously saw Naniwa doing a really nice third base timing to take care of Sen before he could actually kick into macro mode, which of course is one of his signature ways to play. Now that obviously gave a bit of an advantage to Naniwa, and then that proxy pylon gave him a huge advantage in actually getting in some more troops to help out in the fight. So we'll see here if Naniwa is going to continue that trend of just trying to disable the third base of the Zerg before it can really kick into effect, and perhaps if he can actually just take a win that way, or perhaps if he's going to go for a macro game. But Sen over here on the left, bottom left hand side of Shakura's Plateau is probably going to look to take a quick expansion and then maybe get his third as soon as he can, perhaps just to offset the fact that Naniwa can do those really nice attacks on the third. But as we can see, Naniwa getting that forward jump at the natural here. Very common to see this particular play here on Shakura, and Sen opening up with that that extractor trick to grab out an extra drone, and then getting that spawning pool up pretty quickly there as well, just to make sure that he is able to defend against any possible shenanigans that Naniwa might pull out. Before the moment, as we can see, Naniwa just going for the standard sort of natural block, as we'll see here, and probably will look to maybe block it as long as he can, but we'll see what happens here. But Sen, meanwhile, just getting the drones up and running. 2 more on the way. We'll see him just creep up just slightly ahead in the drone count, but of course that will slowly dwindle just a tiny bit, given that Naniwa can use his chrono boost, can also use and also the fact that the drones of course need to make the buildings. So we can see here the Naniwa blocking out that hatchery from going down. We can see that that is going to stay up for the moment. Here we have seen in fact a double extractor trick, very cute there from Sen, just to grab out a couple of extra drones, as we can see currently sitting at 20/18, so he is doing quite nicely with that. Going to see the cancel there, beautifully done by Naniwa again to block out this hatchery. Going to try and make sure that Sen cannot get this down, as he did in the previous game where he actually just snuck in and got the hatchery down. We can see the probe is going to be in a lot of trouble now. 4 lings are already out for Sen, so there's no way that is going to stay down too long, and there it goes. So finally Sen putting down that natural hatchery there, getting that up and running. Meanwhile, back at the base of Naniwa, got a cannon on the way, just over half done. He should have this done in time before these lings get here. Of course, Sen will know that that is the standard sort of play there, and of course with this Overlord positioned, he can see just of where exactly what things have actually gone down there for Naniwa, so we'll know that there will be no way to actually get in here and block off, or get in here and do any damage, I should say. But as we can see, the Nexus now up, and this will be done quite soon, and as we saw in the first game, it'll give Naniwa quite a nice boost, grabbing both of his gases here at the main base, just transferring another probe across. Not sure where this is going. Okay, he's actually going to use this to finish off and get that cybernetic score up and running. As we can see, there was that secondary probe that's already scouting out across the map, just trying to see if Sen has actually taken that third base. May want to try and get into the main base again, just to see if there's any tech around here. Of course, we can see that Sen is just going absolutely drone crazy at the moment, really powering out those drones as much as he can. We'll see on the production tab, he hasn't got any more just on the way just yet, but he is getting close to supply block, so he's just trying to fix that for the moment here. But there we are, we've got 6 more drones on the way, so Sen will be really kicking up that economic production here, and this probe will actually get home just in time. We've got a zealot that's about to pop out just to make sure that those lings aren't able to do anything foolish and try and run by. But as we can see, Chrono going down on the Nexus here for Naniwa, just to make sure that his probes are getting out in high numbers and he can keep up with the Zerg. So there's the Zealot that just popped out, just trying to hack up those Zerglings before they can get too far away, of course. If you can take them down, it's really nice just to make sure that you deny the Zerg some of that map presence as well. And with the +1 weapons on the way, the Zealots that he does get out will be quite devastating against those lings that are out on the map. Now, as we can see, Naniwa is actually going to be in the dark for the moment here. The only intel that he really has is, he's actually going to send out a Zealot right now, actually. So he's just going to send out a Zealot to make sure he can take out the Zerglings, the imminent Zerglings at the watchtower. As you can see, just running in there, trying to hack up the Zergling, but not really going to get too far. Now he's just going to try and get across into the third base here. As we can see, the Zealot is going to... No, we don't actually have the waypoint, but he's going to get into the third there and actually spot that timing. So he'll be ready if he needs to make some kind of push into the third base. As we can see, he is actually going Robotech along with a few more extra gates. So just making sure that he's going to be able to get some units out to defend if necessary. Would not be surprised if we see some Colossus come out of Naniwa. He didn't actually see any in the previous game, but of course that was based on the fact that he actually had a lot of those Phoenix out. So the Zealot did actually get inside the natural expansion here, did see that there was the Evo chamber over here, and I believe, let's just double check, he did see the Roach Warren. Yes, he did. So he knows that the Roach Tech is a possibility, may need to account for that if he is going to go for an attack. In fact, is actually going to get an Immortal out. This will be quite interesting to see what he does with the Immortal. I'm thinking perhaps there may be that timing attack to try and take out the third base, and we'll see what happens here. He does have a second Immortal on the way, so I am thinking we're going to see perhaps a couple of Stalkers, a couple of Sentries, and these Immortals going out to try and take the fight to that third base of Sen. And as we can see, look at that drone count from Sen, sitting up there at 59 already. We've got, we don't have any extra in production just yet. We are going to switch into a little bit of production on the army, and we'll see that Sen is going to make sure he has enough Roaches out to defend at the moment. Roaches getting their shoes on. They will be moving a little bit faster in a moment. We've also got a Spore Crawler just going up to make sure that Sen is protected against any possible DT harassment or in case of any sort of trouble with air units. But as we can see, looks as if Naniwa is going to try and move out here. He is taking a probe with him back in the main base. He is going to have the 4 gateways plus a couple of extra ones that will be done quite soon. But Sen is now aware of this attack coming in. We've got some Roaches that can see that the Immortals are going to be included in this mix, so that can be quite dangerous here. Naniwa will probably look to put down a pylon, I would say maybe in the corner here. He's going to put it down. There it is. He does get that up and running. The Immortals are going to need to be very careful in their positioning here. We've got a couple of extra Zealots that are going to run across. The drone's actually coming across to try and take out that probe. They do get rid of it, and a couple of force fields going down there for Naniwa, just trying to block out those Roaches. Not actually the best force fields. The Roaches still in the fight. 2 Immortals, however, will be able to do quite a lot of damage here. They're not going to do much to the drones and the Lings, but they certainly will if they can target fire onto those Roaches. He'll be in a very nice spot here, actually bringing in a few more Sentries to make sure he can block off this ramp. 1 Immortal still alive, 1 taken down by those Roaches. The pylon finally does go down, and Sen will be stopping this attack, no doubt about it, and we'll just have to see how much damage Naniwa can actually do to this base. He is focusing that Immortal with all of its power on that third hatch, and it is going to go down. Beautiful work there to take that out. Pretty much the damage is done. That's all he needed to do. Going to try and retreat here, perhaps get a few more kills on some units if he can. The Immortal perhaps is not going to survive too long, given how many Roaches are just coming up the ramp, but decently successful attack there. Lost a couple of Immortals, a couple of Zealots and Sentries, but I would say for the fact that he actually denied that third base, it was quite decent work there from Naniwa. So what we'll see now is actually a switch into the Blink Tech. As you can see, half done there on that Twilight Council, so we'll probably see just huge amounts of Stalkers starting to warp in here for Naniwa. Probably going to look to try and actually just counteract these Roaches as much as possible. Of course, these Stalkers can be used defensively and can be used, as we have seen in a couple of other games, to go down this backdoor path and come across here, get a hallucinated unit or perhaps an observer. I would say an observer would be a better choice, but just blink up the back here and cause all sorts of damage inside the main base while the other units are out just patrolling and trying to control the rest of the map. But as we can see, 1 observer out for Naniwa. We'll spot that third is going up again. He's going to be able to perhaps perform some sort of counterattack to make sure that goes down. But just for the moment, Naniwa is going to need to be very careful with how he proceeds out from his base. Of course, there are all of these Roaches here, which whilst they can be countered by the Blink Stalkers especially, there is still a lot of them there to deal with. But the Roaches actually being very clever here, taking advantage of that Overseer and actually taking out one of the pylons that was actually just a little bit out of place perhaps for Naniwa. But losing 1 pylon doesn't mean the end of the world. Neither does losing that Changeling either. But just having a look at the unit counts, we've actually got a total of, how many we've got? 15 Stalkers along to fight against the 25 Roaches. So this could be very interesting if Naniwa goes for a direct engagement. What I would really like to see if he can actually take these Stalkers across to the side, perhaps blink into the main, cause a little bit of damage, and then get out. He doesn't want to actually commit these guys to the attack, because of course, as we can see, with the Roaches coming in fact, beautiful blink out, but he's not going to get too much damage done. In fact, may lose a couple of these Stalkers because he's just out of blink for the moment. But Sen, of course, is going to have to pull back as a couple of Stalkers out, just holding those watchtowers, but it looks as if Sen really does have control for the moment here. We also just have Blink, just keep Burrow, just keep in mind, for those roaches, so he certainly will be able to keep them alive a little bit longer if Naniwa decides to get cute with his Blink micro. But just as we can see here, Naniwa taking that third base is going to chuck a couple of cannons down to make sure that's defended. Got a few zealots and sentries here to defend as well. Obviously not going to be too big of an issue, but Sen meanwhile just patrolling around the base here is going to be able to spot what tech is going on here in the base of Naniwa. Meanwhile, the Stalker's just still having a little bit of fight off with all of these roaches, and have a look at that. These guys burrowing down, just hunkering down in their little caves, and they're going to heal up quite nicely with the that extra regen that those roaches get when they are burrowed. So we can see that Sen does have a great deal of vision here controlling these watchtowers. I'm really surprised that Sen is keeping these alive for the moment, and Naniwa hasn't done anything about it, but just poking and prodding, not actually going in too hard, just wanting to make sure that he's keeping Sen on his toes, and that he's just being very careful with how he positions these roaches. It looks as if this observer is not long for this world. Have a look at that. Sen right on top of everything, bringing out a couple of queens, sniping down that observer is going to really help out with keeping the roaches alive when they need to burrow. He can burrow those, and the observer won't be able to detect them underground, and the stalkers will just have to sit around above ground wondering where they went. So we'll see what happens. But a couple of immortals sticking with the immortal tech for the moment is Naniwa. Got one changeling here doing a nice job, just being cool with his crew. But here come the infestors. We've got the fungal growth going down. These infestors do have the pathogen glands upgrade, so they will be ready to rumble as soon as they pop out of those eggs. And now we'll see if Naniwa is able to keep back those infestors, puts down a couple of fungal growths do go down, and infested terrans come out, of course, providing a nice little decoy while the roaches do what they can. As we can see, Sen spreading out his units quite decently. However, a few force fields helping to actually deflect this attack. I would say Naniwa should be fine. We'll just see what he's going to do here. Have a look at those stalkers. They're still doing quite nicely here. They will be able to blink back on top of these stalkers and of the roaches, sorry, and keep them down. Just got to be careful with how far he pushes in. Does not want to get caught out by fungals, and perhaps the many lings that are on the way. Have a look at that. We've got a whole 3, maybe 4 pages of lings actually ready to rumble, and there they go. They're going to have to be very careful with these stalkers. They've obviously got that fungal to be worried about. The lings can surround, of course, and do a great amount of damage, blinking away just in time. I would have said that a fungal was just about to pop out there from Sen. He's only got, has he only got one, or he's got sort of one fungal left over, but actually loses an infestor there. Not a good finish to that battle for Sen, but he is doing quite nicely here at this third base. Probably going to look to take that fourth very soon, I would say. He's only got this main threat of the stalkers to worry about. There is realistically no extra tech coming out from Naniwa. He's getting a couple of gates out. We've got an immortal on the way. We can see that the changeling is just going to spot exactly what is happening here. Dustin Browner would be happy with that. Someone actually using an overseer to its advantage. And just checking out what is happening here in the base of Naniwa. Got this third up and running, which is really nice for Nani. He's going to need to make sure that this stays up and running as much as he can, because of course if Sen moves on to that fourth base and keeps it up and running. But beautiful fungal there on those stalkers, capturing a whole big group of them. We got some force fields going down to make sure that the rest of the units are kept out of the battle, but more fungals going down. A lot of these units being absolutely destroyed here by Sen. In fact, he's looking like he's in a great spot here. A couple more force fields, making sure that there are funnels of these roaches here. And actually, if he can actually capture some of these infestors before they run away, he'll be in a really great spot, but not actually able to. But it looks as if Nani will be able to defend for the moment here. The roaches deciding to come back in for another round. They're going to have to be really careful. We've got Hydras coming in from the side as well. Switching into the Hydra tech now is Sen. So he's going to be able to do a decent amount of damage. What we would really like to see from Sen is some more creep spread. If he can get a couple of these extra queens out. He had some more somewhere. I can't actually remember where they were. But he had some extra queens out to actually put down some more creep tumors. That would be really nice. But looks as if he's just having a burrow party in the middle. Look, these roaches are going to have to be very careful that they don't get into this choke point and get surrounded by this concave that is possible for Naniwa. But it looks as if we're just going to have the roaches healing up in the middle. We got some Hydras chilling as well. Infestors in the mix, of course, as well. And as we can see, Sen actually getting that fourth base up and running is going to start to pull ahead a little bit in the economy stakes. But the problem that he's going to have to deal with quite soon, as we can see, are the Colossus. We've got one out already. The extended thermal lance is not done just yet. He's actually got that halfway done, as we can see on the production tab. But just having a look at what Naniwa is up up to. He's just sort of poking and prodding in the middle here, just making sure, as we said before, that Sen is accountable for exactly what he's doing and exactly where his units are positioned. He doesn't want to get out of position and lose infestors to nothing, doesn't want to get those Hydras burned up by those Colossi once the extended thermal lance is done. And as we can see here, Nani's starting to get a very scary ball up and running. The one problem that he has is that everything is very clumped up, and as we'll see probably here, we do have a couple of fungal growth. Guardian shield goes up. We can see that there are some force fields as well, blocking out a lot of these forces. The Colossus doing a nice job here, actually burning up a lot of those infestors and the Hydras as well. Thermal lance completing just in time for this fight, as we can see. Really want to see these stalkers get into the fight a little bit more. As we can see, there they go. Fungal growth on one group in the middle. That's really going to hurt them. The infestors aren't going to have to escape as fast as they can. They're not going to get too far. There is an observer in the sky detecting them, and that is the end of those observers. And I would say things are actually looking a little bit bleak perhaps for Sen. He's actually currently sitting on 140 supply. We'll be able to remax very soon. As we can see, he's actually getting out a whole bunch of roaches, some more corruptors as well, to try and take care of those colossus. But it looks as if the push is now coming through from Naniwa. Going to have to be a little bit careful, as we said before. Just doesn't want to push too far, doesn't want to lose any of these stalkers to fungals, and roaches just pounding on them. But here they come, blinking back some of them, but the fungal actually only catching half of those units there. The corruptor's doing a great job against those colossi, but the colossus have already done a lot of damage already, and as we can see, the immortals also in the mix are providing a great way of dealing with those roaches as well. And as we can see, this is not going well for Sen at all. A couple of more units just popping down from Sen, but it's just not enough. We've got the corruptors trying to deal with that last colossus, do take it down, but there is a GG well played, and Naniwa takes the game and takes the set 2-0, taking down Sen, which is obviously no mean feat in of itself, but just doing a great job with keeping himself on that 3 base here. Kept Sen to 2 bases for a little bit of time, of course, with that early Immortal Zealot Sentry attack, and then just keeping himself nice and positioned to take the mid and late game there. So great job there by Naniwa. Consolations, of course, to Sen, but hopefully we'll see some more games from these guys in the near future. Cheers.